I was asked the other day, how do I deal with the unconscious people in my office? So this is a man, a client of mine, who is in a work environment constantly coming in contact with people that are not really spiritually advanced. Let's just say they all could be great people, but they're pretty basic and they really focused on material reality, and he feels out of place because spirituality is a really important part of his life, and he's looking at life from much more harmonious view than the separation perspective, the dualistic separation view of most of his co-workers. So he was asking me, we had this discussion the other day as to what to do, like short of leaving the job, which he cannot do at the moment, how does he survive this environment of being in the office with so many unconscious people that constantly trigger him? So this is a very interesting point, right? He is being triggered. That's the key to this entire answer. So for the ones of you who don't know me, I'm Eugenia Oganova. I am a founder of Transcension Gate, which is a multi-dimensional portal for spiritual service through empowered self-mastery. So what we're talking about here is how to help my client to be masterful within his own self in order to resolve this issue of constantly being triggered by the people in his office. So there are three things. First thing is he needs to change his view as these people are unconscious, as in they bad, they trigger me, they somehow are, getting on my nerves, or whatever his words were. So really, in perspective of the entire evolution of human consciousness, there are stages. So in his developmental stage, he has already arrived to understanding of oneness. He has arrived at the place where he sees, everything sort of harmoniously fitting together. And when he sees somebody behaving disharmoniously, it's painful. It's an unconscious behavior. But there are stages before one arrives to this place of really feeling like you're connected. And those stages are kind of in separation, right? They're disharmonious. So you can think of those people as being young spiritually. So they are not at the level where they have matured to the understanding that everything we do or say or think even is connected to everything else and affecting everything else. So because they're not at that level of consciousness, they might be more selfish. They might be acting more from their ego. They might be unconscious in the comments they make. But if my client remembers that, they are at the different level of consciousness, then it's sort of like, being mad at children for being children. They're gonna be what they're gonna be until they mature to a different level. And nobody can skip steps. So if somebody has a lifetime when they're not interested in spirituality, we can't make them interested in spirituality. It's something that wakes up from the inside of the person when they are ready. So if his coworkers are not ready, then that's just the stage that they're at. And being okay with that by seeing it as a steps, as a ladder, instead of seeing that we're all at the same plane and somehow some people are behaving well and some people are behaving badly. Instead, if we think of it like, there are different steps. So, you're at this step and somebody else might be in a lower step. And that's in consciousness. So they spiritually have not arrived at certain level of understanding. Then it's easier to deal with. So that's number one. Number two is to be safe no matter what. My client in this situation was attaching his safety to what the office environment is. And that's why he was constantly being triggered. Because he was feeling, I'm not safe because these people are unconscious and because they think so negatively. Well, they can think whatever they think and he can still be safe, right? So the safety, it's an internal belief system that connects to our container. When we have a bubble around us, we are safe because then we bring our environment with us. So when I work with this particular man, this client of mine, what I teach him is exactly that, how to build a container. So then when he arrives into his office, he kind of floats there in his own fishbowl. And then people can be whatever they are, negative or unconscious, and it doesn't trigger him anymore because he is within his own space. The safety comes from our space. When there's no container, then we constantly get bombarded by somebody else's unconsciousness. No wonder we don't feel safe. So that number 2 is to be safe by having the container. And number 3 piece, that is about figuring out why you're there. We always have a reason for why we're placed in certain circumstance that is difficult. So it either could be our own stubbornness and it's actually time to leave, but we just refuse to. So that's definitely worth examining to find out if you kind of need to be moving on and instead you're staying too long. Or it could be that you meant to activate somehow the people that you're with. You know, the actual coworkers that are not conscious and maybe negative, by the fact of occasionally putting in something that is more positive in there or giving them a different perspective. And if the number 2 is done, so the person does feel safe to do it, and if they do it in a little way without trying to change somebody else's consciousness, that can actually be the right catalyst to help somebody kind of go, oh yeah, I can look at it differently. Obviously, not every person would go with that, but that also could be the reason why someone would be in a circumstance of being in the office with very unconscious, negative-oriented people. Another reason could be actually not related to the coworkers. It could be about the job itself. It could be something that this person is meant to do in a long run with the people that the office interacts, which for this client of mine actually is the reason. It's his clients that he has by being in this office, by having that job. Those are the people that he's actually supporting and bringing the uplift and energy to. So yeah, that means he might have to be in a disharmonious environment and learn the boundary, which he needs. But at the same time, he now understands the reason why he's there. So to summarize here, you can see how when the question comes up as to how do I survive this sort of a negative environment of people around me in my office, there are 3 things that you need to look at, you know. So the first thing is that you have to see people at different levels of consciousness. Then you're less triggered by them because you can see who's spiritually younger. 2 is that you need to be safe and have a container no matter what. And 3, you need to know why you're there. You need to look for that and then make a decision. Either stay and do the thing that you feel you're there for or leave. But either way, when those 3 things are done, there's no more triggering by it. It might be still uncomfortable, but it's not painful and it's not feeling so overwhelming. So there is your answer to the question, how does one live in the environment or work in the environment where people around him are unconscious? So if you're watching this video on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel and like the video. And comment below, or if you're watching it on the Facebook or on my website, comment how are you dealing with your office environment, the ones of you who do have a job, you know, and you have to go to every day, and probably those people are not as spiritual as you are. How are you dealing with that? What has been your solution? Try to apply these 3 steps I just said, and then notice what it does for you, how it enhances your experience within your office environment. And check out my Transcension Gate website. It's transcensiongate.com. There are all sorts of information there to help you on your journey. So be love, be free, be God.